9 daycares raided by the feds. We have learned the state sent them $67 million in the last 8 years. That's your tax dollars spent on this child care assistance program.
Box after box, bags, electronics, and more loaded into the back of a truck and hauled away.
On paper, Senator Calvin Reid owned nothing unusual. A coastal foundation in Miami, a marine research nonprofit in Norfolk, a disaster response logistics company in Houston, and a private security firm that had never once missed a federal contract. Everything looked legal. That was the problem. Because when FBI financial analysts finally mapped the money, they found the same pattern repeating across 7 states, 3 federal agencies, 2 shell banks, and 1 restricted island facility off the coast of Florida. Then IC divers found the hatch. And what was underneath it made every report before that moment look small. Not just gold. Not just fentanyl. Not just encrypted files tied to some of the most powerful people in the country. A hidden underwater bunker. A vault built beneath the ocean floor. And the name buried deepest in the evidence was not a cartel boss. It was a billionaire politician who had spent 20 years selling himself as America's cleanest man in public office. His name was Calvin Reid, and federal agents were about to learn that the bunker was not the beginning of the case. It was the end of a system nobody was supposed to see. For years, Reid was untouchable. He was the kind of politician cable news called presidential. A defense hawk. A border security hardliner. A billionaire before he entered office. A man who owned private ports, luxury hotels, and enough media influence to survive scandals that would have ended anyone else. When federal reporters asked about his money, his team pointed to old shipping investments. When watchdog groups questioned his donors, his lawyers sent letters. When whistleblowers disappeared from public view, no one could prove why. But in late October, a junior analyst at the Department of Justice noticed something strange inside a routine forfeiture report. A warehouse outside San Diego had been flagged after ICE seized a shipment of counterfeit medical equipment. Nothing dramatic at first. Just fake masks, mislabeled cold packs, and pallets routed through a logistics company called Meridian Relief Systems. Meridian sounded harmless. It had contracts after hurricanes. It moved medicine after floods. It showed up in disaster zones with cameras, branded trucks, and senators shaking hands in front of donation banners. But the analyst noticed the company was being paid twice. Once by federal relief programs, and once by offshore accounts connected to seized narcotics proceeds. That should not happen by accident. So the analyst pulled another file. Then another. By sunrise, she had found 19 Meridian-linked companies operating out of Houston, Tampa, Baltimore, Newark, and Long Beach. Different names. Same accounting language. Same maritime insurance provider. Same private auditor. And hidden in the metadata of several filings, one initial set appeared over and over again. CR. At first, nobody said Calvin Reid's name out loud. Cases like this do not begin with accusations. They begin with doubt. The FBI's Public Corruption Unit in Washington opened a quiet review. DEA analysts joined after 2 warehouse seizures showed matching route codes. ICE Homeland Security investigations got involved when maritime manifests led back to bonded cargo areas near the port of Miami. The surface narrative was simple. A relief company may have been laundering money through government contracts. But 3 weeks later, agents found the first anomaly. A refrigerated container arrived in Norfolk marked as emergency insulin storage units. The temperature logs looked perfect. The paperwork looked perfect. Even the customs seals appeared clean. But a K9 unit reacted to the floor panels. When agents opened the container, they did not find insulin. They found marine-grade concrete blocks, precision diving equipment, satellite uplink components, and 12 sealed cases of gold assay tools. Not gold. Tools used to verify gold. That changed the entire case. Because you do not ship gold verification kits unless someone expects gold on the other end. The first physical scene unfolded inside a federal evidence bay in Virginia. Agents cut open one of the concrete blocks with a diamond saw. Dust filled the room. A DEA chemist stepped back. An IC investigator leaned in with a flashlight. Inside the block was a hollow core. Wrapped in waterproof polymer was a drive the size of a hotel key card. On it were coordinates. Not to a warehouse. Not to a port. To a spot 28 nautical miles east of Key Largo. At first, the coordinates made no sense. Open water. No registered platform. No research marker. No mapped structure. Then a Navy liaison reviewed old bathymetric scans and asked a question nobody in the room expected. Why is there a rectangular shadow on the seabed? That shadow became Operation Black Current. The FBI could not simply raid open ocean. They needed warrants, probable cause, divers, maritime support, and confirmation that the structure existed. So they watched. For 14 days, federal surveillance aircraft tracked small boats leaving private docks tied to Reid-controlled properties. The boats moved at night. They shut off transponders. They circled empty water, stayed still for 40 minutes, then returned. One captain claimed he was night fishing. Another said he was calibrating sonar. A third had no explanation for why his vessel carried oxygen tanks, encrypted radios, and an access card issued by Meridian Relief Systems. The deeper investigators went, the less the case looked like smuggling. It looked like infrastructure. In Houston, FBI accountants found a foundation grant used to purchase deep-sea pressure doors. In Tampa, ICE traced payments to a retired naval engineer. In Baltimore, DEA linked a shipment of chemical precursors to the same shell network. And in Miami, a protected witness finally gave the first human piece of the machine. His name was Luis Mercado. He had been a dock mechanic for a private marina in Coral Gables. Luis told agents he had once repaired a hydraulic lift on a luxury vessel owned by one of Reed's donors. He noticed the boat's cargo hold had been modified with a moon pool, the kind used for underwater access. When he asked about it, his supervisor told him to forget what he saw. 2 weeks later, Luis was fired. A month after that, someone burned his truck. He spent a year believing he had seen something he was not supposed to understand. Now federal agents were telling him he had seen the doorway. But even Luis did not know what was below. The raid began in layers. Not with sirens. Not with a press conference. At dawn, FBI agents executed warrants at Reed properties in Washington, Palm Beach, and Dallas. ICE teams secured private marina offices. DEA units hit storage facilities in Houston and San Diego. DOJ prosecutors moved to freeze accounts before money could vanish. The public saw a corruption investigation. The real target was already underwater. Off Key Largo, a Coast Guard cutter held position while a specialized IC dive team entered the water. Visibility was low. The current was stronger than expected. The first diver's camera showed coral, sand, then darkness. Then the shape emerged. A steel hatch embedded into a concrete platform disguised with marine growth. No markings. No lights. Just a keypad, a biometric scanner, and a pressure wheel built to survive storms. The first attempt failed. The second triggered an internal lock. On the third, using an access code recovered from the Norfolk drive, the hatch released. The sound came through the diver's microphone like a ship groaning under pressure. Inside was a vertical shaft. 52 feet down, it opened into a dry chamber. And that was where the story stopped being theory. The first room looked like a submarine facility. White walls, dehumidifiers, backup batteries, racks of diving suits arranged by size, a red emergency phone with no outside label. Then agents reached the vault corridor. 4 doors, each with a different access protocol. The first door contained gold, not bars stacked casually like movie treasure. Inventory controlled, sealed, numbered bullion. Rows of crates stamped through offshore refineries. Some traced to seizures that had never officially existed. Some linked to sanctioned intermediaries. Some tied to cartel payment ledgers recovered years earlier by DEA. The total estimate came in at $7.8 billion. That number alone would have made history. But the second door was worse. Inside were insulated containment bays, vacuum-sealed packages, chemical stabilizers, industrial pill presses, ledger tablets wrapped in static-proof bags. DEA field tests confirmed fentanyl. Not a street-level amount. Not a cartel stash house amount. 18 tons. Enough to suggest the bunker was not storage. It was a distribution reserve. A strategic stockpile hidden under federal eyes while its political owner built a career demanding harsher border enforcement on television. That contradiction shook even experienced agents. Because Reed had not been fighting the crisis. He had been monetizing both sides of it. The third door revealed the system. Servers. Dozens of them. Liquid-cooled racks humming in a sealed chamber beneath the ocean floor. Fiber lines routed through disguised marine cables. Backup drives labeled with numbers, dates, and initials. A cyber unit from the FBI took over immediately. Nobody touched anything until the room was photographed from every angle. One agent later described the scene as too clean to be improvised. This was not panic storage. This was architecture. When forensic teams imaged the first server cluster, they found payment ledgers, offshore trust records, shipment schedules, donor lists, shell company ownership charts, and communications with port supervisors, private bankers, cartel brokers, and security contractors. But buried behind multiple encryption layers was a separate archive. Not financial, personal, compromising files, surveillance recordings, travel logs, private messages, materials involving elite guests, abuse allegations, coercion schemes, and blackmail dossiers connected to judges, lobbyists, executives, foreign intermediaries, and political figures. Federal agents did not release the contents publicly, but internally, the folder name became the phrase everyone feared: the Covenant Files. The early assumption was that Reed had created the archive to protect himself. That was only half true. The mid-twist came 3 days later. When FBI cyber analysts reconstructed deleted access logs, they discovered Reed was not the only person using the bunker. Someone inside federal law enforcement had been accessing the servers months before the raid.
Not after. Before.
That meant Operation Blackcurrant had a leak. The investigation froze.
Phones were pulled.
Internal communications were audited. A sealed review began inside DOJ. Agents who had worked the case for months were suddenly being investigated by people they had never met. And then analysts found the insider's pattern. Every time federal pressure came close to Meridian relief systems, a warrant request stalled. Every time ICE flagged a vessel, its route changed hours later. Every time DEA moved on a warehouse, the highest value inventory had already disappeared. Someone had been warning the network. The name finally surfaced through a burner device recovered in Dallas. Deputy Director Malcolm Sloan, a senior official with access to interagency briefings. A man who had publicly praised Reed's anti-trafficking legislation. A man who had privately received payments through a consulting firm controlled by Reed's family office. Sloan was not the mastermind.
He was the shield.
That distinction mattered. Because the system did not survive because everyone was corrupt. It survived because a few people in the right positions could slow enough paperwork, redirect enough attention, and bury enough warnings to make truth look like confusion. While the bunker evidence expanded, the human cost became harder to ignore. In Phoenix, DEA agents reopened the overdose case of a 19-year-old named Maya Ellison. Her mother had kept a plastic bag of Maya's college notebooks in the hallway closet for 2 years. Maya had believed the pills were counterfeit study medication, bought from a campus seller who claimed they were safe. The batch code later matched a distribution chain connected to Meridian shell routes. Maya was not in the bunker. Her name was not in the political files. But the substance that killed her had moved through the same machine that hid gold under the Atlantic. That was the point investigators could not escape. Systems like this do not only corrupt banks and politicians. They reach kitchens, dorm rooms, emergency rooms, and families who never hear the names of the people profiting from their grief. A second witness, a former private security coordinator named Dana Voss, gave prosecutors the final map. Dana had worked Reed events for 6 years. Fundraisers in Palm Beach, policy retreats in Aspen, closed donor weekends in the Florida Keys. She told investigators the bunker was referred to as the archive, never the vault. Guests never went there directly. They were moved by yacht transferred at sea and taken below through access vessels. Most thought it was a secure communication site.
Some knew more.
Reed, according to Dana, treated the archive like insurance, not against enemies,
against allies.
That was the final realization. Calvin Reed did not build the underwater bunker just to hide drugs or gold. He built it to hold leverage. Money gave him reach. Fentanyl gave him cash flow. Blackmail gave him control. And politics gave him protection. When agents finally arrested him at his Palm Beach estate, he did not run. He was standing in a glass-walled office overlooking the water, wearing a white dress shirt and reading the warrant like it was a business proposal. He asked one question: who signed off on this? The agent replied, the Department of Justice.
For the first time, Reed looked uncertain.
Because men like him are not afraid of evidence. They are afraid of systems moving without their permission. The public announcement came 48 hours later. DOJ described a multi-agency seizure involving billions in illicit assets, narcotics tied to international trafficking networks, encrypted records, and charges ranging from conspiracy and money laundering to obstruction, bribery, and trafficking-related offenses. They did not describe every file. They did not name every person. They did not show the bunker footage.
But leaks moved fast.
A blurry still image appeared online, federal divers at a steel hatch under green water. Then another, stacks of sealed bullion inside a white vault. Then a third, agents standing in front of a server room deep enough below the sea that no sunlight could reach it. The images looked unreal. But the more people looked, the more disturbing the case became. Because the most frightening part was not that one billionaire politician had built a hidden underwater bunker. It was that he had needed accountants, engineers, port workers, contractors, donors, security teams, lawyers, bankers, and insiders to keep it alive. A crime that large is never just one man.
It is a permission structure.
A chain of people who choose not to ask questions because the payment's clear, the promotions come, the invitations arrive, and the powerful stay powerful. By the end of the first month, 61 people had been arrested across Florida, Texas, Virginia, California, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C. More than 200 accounts were frozen. Several federal contractors were suspended.
2 port officials resigned.
A private bank in the Cayman Link network collapsed under emergency review. And Malcolm Sloan, the insider who had protected the operation, agreed to cooperate after prosecutors showed him access logs from the bunker servers. His first interview lasted 9 hours. His second implicated names no one expected. The case did not close.
It widened.
That is how investigations like this work. The raid is not the ending. It is the moment the locked door opens. And behind every door is another receipt, another password, another name, another family left with damage that cannot be undone. Calvin Reid built his public image on security, patriotism, and law and order. But beneath the ocean floor, federal agents found the opposite. A private kingdom of gold. A narcotics reserve large enough to poison entire cities. And files designed to turn powerful people into silent servants. The bunker was hidden underwater for a reason. Not just to escape detection, but because Reid understood something dark about power. The deeper you bury the truth, the more people assume it cannot exist. Until someone finds the hatch.